It's another exciting episode of Broad Daylight with me, Priscilla Moore. Today on Broad Daylight, my guest is the General Secretary for Operations for the Youth Empowerment Consortium in the person of Mr. Edward Marfo. Today we're going to talk about the IMF bailouts, the youth perspective, what they think, the impact on the Ghanaian youth and the economy at large. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. First, let me use the opportunity to greet your cheerful viewers and all the members of Youth Model Parliament who are watching us live at this moment. I believe today will be a very interesting day.
Very interesting, actually.
We will have a great discussion. Thank you very much.
You're welcome once again. Tell us about YEC. What is it about?
Okay, the Youth Empowerment Consortium runs youth leadership programs.
Okay.
Now, these leadership programs falls within the 7 structures or the 7 mountains of influence in any nation.
Okay.
Any nation in which you go to, there are 7 pillars that runs that particular country. So for a young person growing up, his or her duty is to identify where his passion lies.
Okay.
And then he holds on to one of these sectors, or maybe 2 or 3 or 4, hone his skills, and then will be able to deliver value to the nation, even at a profit. So what we do is we run leadership trainings in these spheres. Now these include governance and political leadership. It's one of the main pillars of any nation. We have the pillar for entrepreneurship. There's a pillar for media and communication, what you do. And then there is also others. It's 7 pillars. So we model existing institutions, and then we give these young ones the opportunity to play roles in line with what they seek to do in the future. All right. So we have the Youth Model Parliament, modeled on the Parliament of Ghana, where we give young ones the opportunity to represent their constituencies, districts, NGOs, etc. It's a bit of a modification. Now, with that, you learn what Parliament is all about, what service is all about. So we have a structured program, we have a structured schedule for trainings and the rest. Not just issues of politics and governance, but ones that has to do with policy and project management, NGO development, and the rest. So that is what we do with a very simple mission, and that is to raise youth leaders who will be known for their responsibilities in action, not just the usual hubris that is around. Youth leaders who will be known for their integrity in character, youth leaders who will be known for their compassion in outlook, and most especially excellence in programs and projects execution. So in basic, that is what we do as an organization.
Great. So if someone is watching and the person wants to join Youth Model Parliament or YEC, what are the procedures the person would have to go through? All
right. So we have a very simple registration process. You just pick a form. Usually it's online. If you visit our website, it's there. If you go to our Facebook page, also it's there. You fill. And most of the time, we don't do much of email sending and receiving. We call the applicants. So if your application meets our standard, you receive a call. And then you follow through with the process from that point. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. In fact, when I hear things like this, I become excited because at least we have generational thinkers. Or what do you say? Anyway, back to business. The new patriotic party just ended their, I don't know whether national election or their primaries, or how do we even put it? And then one noticeable man, you know, the General Secretary for the new patriotic party, Mr. John Boadu, actually has lost his seat to Mr. Justin Kodua. In fact, what is your initial comments about this whole election? And what is your overview? What will you say? What will be your remarks? Or are you going to join the train and say, fear delegates? A popular quote by the late Sir John.
All right. So, it's a very interesting subject and a matter to look at, right? But change in itself, the basis of change, the anatomy of change is such that its earliest arrival is noiseless. So you have to be sensitive at a certain level to detect what might happen. All right. He did not lose, John did not lose the General Secretary role on that day.
Tell me more.
So basically, it started from somewhere.
Okay.
He did not just appear at the Accra Sports Stadium and then lost an election.
Okay.
There are a series of occurrences that have been in play till that day. And one will say that they just came to the peak and then exploded. All right. So, and if you are going into any election, there is what we call the incumbents disadvantage. You've been in office before, people have seen what you can do. And you offend people. People will hold grudges. There will be factions within the party. And the one coming to attack will have more zeal than you, who possibly is on the seat at most times, because more or less he's the underdog. And there is this kind of energy that an underdog comes to the play field with. So JB, for me, lost the elections before even they assembled at the Accra Sports Stadium. And what just transpired there was just
a formal announcement?
It was more or less a formal announcement. For me, I saw the pictures, and even before the election started,
okay,
and it looks as if his countenance was as a tornado. Do you get it? As a tornado, who said no. With what is transpiring, it's not going to go my way. So it didn't come to me as an individual. Me, as I sit here, it did not come to me as a surprise.
Wow.
For me, in politics, anything can happen. In that environment, a lot can happen. People can cheer you up today, and then the next minute, they can just switch like that. So you need to come to the table with a sense of humility. You need to be at that table with some sense of alertness. You need to be on your toes every time.
So are you trying to say that Mr. John Boydu was arrogant?
Not necessarily the issue of arrogance, because I used to listen to him when I was even far younger.
Okay.
But there is a level of external zeal that comes to you when you occupy power, such that the way you used to treat certain people at certain points, you might not necessarily treat them the same way. And sometimes, because of the pressure that comes on you, there are a lot of things that you might do differently.
Okay.
You might not have the opportunity to explain. However, JB have his mistakes within the party. There are things he said he would do that he possibly could not.
Okay.
When you put that aside, as you sit as the General Secretary of the NPP,
okay,
there are statements you might not make. If the people around you are the ones making the statement, it will be attributed to you as your stance. A typical example is when people around you are saying that we vote for this presidential candidate even when it's not yet time. Present a play field that those who are not eating today, quote and unquote, will say, oh, okay, if that is the case, then let's find a way out of this very situation. So his laws have a lot of factors, a lot of things to attribute them to. Just that he did not lose the elections there. He lost the elections before he got there.
Wow, interesting. So do you have any message for the one who has Justin, Mr. Kudia? Any message for him, any lessons for him you think he should look out for or be on the watch?
I think he's a fine gentleman.
Okay.
And he will do well. Okay. Looking at his ability to cut across.
Okay.
He will do well. He just need to pay attention to what the party faithfuls are asking for. So those that will be voting, those that break power, the delegates, what they are asking for. If people are asking for an expansion of the electoral college, for instance, you need to look at it critically and then make sure you get it done. At the end of the day, he also have a lot of work to do. A lot of damage have been done. He have a lot of work to do with his team to, first of all, secure the hopes of Ghanaians again.
To break the 8.
Breaking the 8 is another subject. Even though this very occurrence actually have brought a bit of energy back to the NPP.
Okay.
Because from where I sit and looking at it closely, it was going to be more difficult for the NPP to go into the polls with the old team. Right? Because to a point, those around the previous general secretary have already announced a candidate they are in support of.
Okay.
And if you look at the party closely, there are a lot of power at play.
Okay.
There are regions that carry the masses for the party. And, you know, elections are no social media contest. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the one that everyone is saying you are winning on social media. So the other party like Alan Cash and his campaign, etc., and the fact that the president of our day have not really had much of a reshuffle. So there are people who think that
okay.
So a lot of things comes to play. So with this change that they have now, it gives more of, if JFK is able to become a unifier, present a different message, that look, we have a more critical task ahead. A lot has happened, but this is the birth of a new dawn. Let's do A, B, C, D, F, G, H. And he's able to live it. A lot is going to change within the political playfield.
We're a free tip. You only get it on broad daylight. You understand? By the way, just giving a free advice. You take it or leave it. You come and meet us here the next time. All right. Now, there is another particular issue that is actually making headlines, but there is a picture that was circulating on social media with 550 cedis notes, and then it's been tagged with the name of Mr. Steven Ntim, who is now the chairman of the New Patriotic Party. People are saying he bribed his way through to get where he is. And people are also saying that, no, he's been in for 20 years and this is his time. Do you think that one way or the other, money kind of influence our democracy as a nation, particularly when it comes to elections?
Well, I have a lot of thought on that.
Okay.
But first of all, let me use the opportunity also to congratulate Mr. Ntim. Winning elections even at the JHS level is not a joke. His ability to have gone through that period almost 5 times within a period of 20 years, still on the same goal, for me is something that we all need to take a good look at.
Okay.
Now, that aside, we then come to the issue of bribe and elections and democracy. The 50 cedi note band, that's a lot of money.
I don't want to go there.
Yes, that's a lot of money. But then with that aside, democracy, like all forms of governance or government, is not perfect.
Okay.
It has its flaws. There are loopholes. And any environment where you find loopholes, you sure bet that people will want to exploit it.
Okay.
As in whether the money and the picture on it was from his camp or it wasn't any other way, money has an influence on elections.
Actually, he said he doesn't have any idea of whatever is going on, actually. So they've cleared the air that they are not aware of the money circulating,
well,
actually.
I asked a friend who made the same indication, and I asked him, if it were you, would you have come out broad-chested to say that I circulated 550 CD bundle notes to buy votes? And he said, no. And I said, definitely. So it may come from his camp. It might not also have come from his camp. But whichever the point is, he won.
Okay.
And whichever the case also is, money have a very special influence on democracy itself and elections. This is what I would say to that very point. You know, we say money answers all things. And basically, there is a level of impact you cannot actually make if you don't transcend your economics.
Okay.
That if you don't transcend your economics. However, buying votes have its own issues, its own agenda altogether. Where we are getting to in our national politics, let's just bring it down. Let's not even just break it as the whole democracy thing. Let's bring it here. Where we are getting to as a people, if we don't pause to reconsider, people will now come out and say that give me ABC before I go and vote. openly. They will openly say it. If you do it, fine. If you don't do it, they will vote against you. And it's getting frustrating. So money have an influence on our democracy. It's up to those coming up and those dying out to determine what the future will hold for our democracy in terms of money's influence in that angle of politics, governance, and all of that. It's up to us to determine what we want out of that.
I see. Interesting. Now, away from that, Ghana is going to IMF.
Okay.
Ghana is going to IMF. We are definitely going.
Okay.
We are taking the money away or we are bringing it home. Let's look at this. Is it a step in the right direction, and is it timely?
First of all, I would want us to look at this whole thing from a point.
Okay.
If I am permitted to look
Sure.
at it that way. Because that gives us an opportunity to look at the subject in a whole. All right.
Okay.
We have a president that we voted for with a vice president who is responsible or the head of the economic management team. A brilliant one, for that matter. And then the president appoints a finance minister who is responsible for almost all the sectors. All right. And then he gives him a job to manage the economy. However, we find ourselves 4 years down the line or 6 at a place where it looks like we didn't know what we were doing. If we knew what we were doing, we didn't know enough, we were not clear. And then we end up at a place that 6 years or 4 years back, we blamed people for taking us to. For me, it's a whole lot of issues. And it beats my imagination to still hear comments from the finance ministry. Like, why should I resign?
In fact, we will come to that actually.
Okay.
As for his resignation and his response, we will come to that.
Okay. So for us going to the IMF, I don't really see it as really a bad thing.
Okay.
Because the IMF itself is like any financial institution. It's just that their business model is to lend to nations primarily. And as an organization that lends to nations, the nations must have what it takes to borrow from them. And more or less, if you are running a business and you go to the bank for a loan, you should have a purpose for it. So if we are going to the IMF with a purpose, not because we've embezzled almost every fund, not because we ourselves have mismanaged our economy to a point, and we need to go to the IMF. If we are going there to get liquidity support to come and develop our nation, if we are going there to go and boost our credibility so that we can have more faith in our economy and attract investors, not necessarily because, again, we've mismanaged what we have, then I don't necessarily see an issue with us going there. Because, mind you, this is not the first time we are going. We've been there 17 times since 1957. Okay? So, this government going there is not the end. We will go again. So we will go. Okay? The nature of an economy is such that it's too complex for you to rely on your ego that I won't do it. The dynamics are too many playing out. So if someone says we won't, you need to ask him, what exactly are you doing that you are saying we won't? Don't just say we won't. It's not about how you feel. It's people's lives. If they are hungry, you need to do something. So it's not entirely wrong for us to go looking for liquidity support and the rest. But the reason that takes us there is always the issue. And then we need to have a goal that at what point can we, after borrowing to build, that is, if we are building, at what point do we get to a threshold, or do we get to a traction where, like we just invited them to a negotiation table, at what point can we invite them, sit on the table during the negotiations, realize that their terms are not fine, and then still have the courage to walk out of the negotiation room without a deal? Because the most powerful person in a negotiation room is not the one giving the offer. He is the weakest. So even at this point, IMF have weaknesses on the negotiation table. But we are weak because we have embezzled our funds. It more or less looks like we don't have an option. So that is where the issue actually comes in. So at what point, after borrowing 17 times, 18, 19, 20, and the rest, doing all the guy with, we are not going, we are not this, we are not quoting scripture, you know, and we still manage to go there. You know, people pray in Dubai. As in whether they quote scripture or not, that one I can't really tell, but people pray over there.
Okay.
If you go to Chad, people pray over there. If you go to Somalia, people pray over there. The issues of economics is not, you let me leave that. So going to the IMF, it's work that needs to be done, and it's a lot. Going to the IMF is not a bad thing to do. They are developmental partners, anyhow you see it. When you look at it from this perspective that they are running a business, Ghana is also having an interest. They have what we want. We also have what they want, because whatever they do, we pay them for that. And we bring them in. That is not a bad thing. The bad thing is when we get what we have gone for, we misuse it, and then we present ourselves with our hands at our back. Because then we go looking for it again, and then we just mess it up, and then another time we go there, and we don't seem to get to a point where we have that courage enough to walk out of the negotiation room without a deal. That is where the whole issue is. As for going back, we will go. If this MPP government have been able to take us back to IMF upon all the utterances, I think a reasonable Ghanaian should not think that a president will come in the immediate and also say, I will not go. And then the Ghanaian will have to believe that person. Because the utterances were very strong. They were direct, they were strong, they were assuring.
We have all the resources.
We have the men. We have the resources. We have the and the rest. So it's not a bad thing going. It is, if you keep going 17 times and there is nothing much to show for, you've not built to a point where you can decide to walk out of the negotiation room without a deal. That is sad. And at this point where we are, it looks like we don't have any option, and we just need to end up there. So if you look at IMF itself from that background, you then realize that every tweet by the country director, Abet Mama, and the media engagements they do, initially before we announced officially that we will have, we want to negotiate with, if you check the track of their communication, it was Ghana's economy is at risk. We are open to them, just as we've always been supportive and helpful. That was the initial communication line. When they started that, even before the introduction of e-levy, I told a colleague that we will end up there. That is superior marketing. Hiding your need in the need of the other person, that is superior marketing. So you realize the tweets were in that line. And then when we finally announced that we will want to break a deal or possibly go and have a negotiation, the communication also changed to, oh, it's because of COVID, it's because of Ukraine war, it's because of Russia, Ukraine, that's why the economy is like that. Yeah. They should tell us the real reason, not the political one. The real reason as to why you get it. Because they are in business, they cannot decide to throw debt on their business partners. So it's not a bad deal, or it's not a bad thing. The only issue is at what point do we get that serious that we can decide to build to a point and then be able to walk out of the negotiation room without a deal.
So are you trying to say, or would you blame the current woes of the economy on the past government? Because Mr. or Vice President Dr. Bawumia is actually saying that, in fact, using a carpenter as an illustration, that kind of thing. Let's listen to him.
Fiscal deficits are rising, debt levels are increasing. This is happening globally. And this tells us that what we are dealing with is a global phenomenon. Let me give you an analogy to make my point. If you ask a carpenter to roof your house, and he roofs this house, and suddenly the roof collapses, without any rainfall or wind, suddenly you have a collapsing of the roof. Will you not blame the carpenter who did the roofing? Will you not blame the carpenter? But if the carpenter roofs your house and the roof collapses because there's a tornado and a storm which has blown away roofs and windows and walls of many houses, will you blame the carpenter? Will you blame the carpenter? So, let us understand the context. Let us understand the context.
All right, so the vice president was actually given an illustration about Ghana's economy with the carpenter roofing, and it will break down a whole lot of things. Do you think Mohammed's administration is what has caused the woes of Ghana, going back to the IMF?
You know, leadership itself, a simple definition of leadership, as I see it, is the word responsibility. 2 years after a pandemic, if you still experience the whole problems that you were still having during that time, it's not the fault of the pandemic, it's your fault. So 2 years or 3 years, let me give it 3 years, after 999 days on a job, if you still have the courage to blame your predecessor, then there is a whole lot of issues to handle. At this point, to what end would you blame Mahama for? That he did what? That he did a deal with the IMF and it didn't work? Or because Honorable Kwabena Dufo or Setepe did ABCDFGH, and because of that, after 6 years or 4 years down the line, the effect of it is what we are still dealing with. Then Mahama will have to blame Nkrumah. All right? J.A. Kufuor's time will have to be blaming someone else. Rawlings will have to look for Queen Elizabeth and be throwing jabs around. And Nkrumah wouldn't have been able to do much. You were voted in there because the man, quote and unquote, people, or the outlook was made to look like this person is not working. Because clearly, if you want to be very sincere to a point, you need to give John Mahama a clap. If you look at what has happened the last 4 years with what the man was up to. So, it is no one's fault. It's the fault of the current administration. And until we take responsibility for what needs to be done, because once you have someone to blame, you always leave yourself off the hook. That is what they've been doing for a while, and it's not helping anybody. If you are blaming Mahama now, we've given you a job. Yours is to do it. You can't blame Mahama, not after 6 years. You can blame Mahama after 2 years, not after 3 years, not after 4 years, not after 6 years. Because at that point, you've seen enough of what he has caused for you to be able to rectify or to sort it out. So if you're not sorting it out, and are still blaming him, throwing jabs at him, whether you want him to respond or what exactly you want him to do, I don't get it. Because you have a time frame to work. It's 4 years, 4 years. So if you use the first 4 years to blame Mahama, then the second 4 years to again blame him for your lack of a better word, possibly, almost the same names you've been calling the person. You can't do that for long. And if you do that for long, people will begin to not take you serious. And I think he's very intelligent. Gradually, he should sit down and possibly analyze some of his utterances. Because it drew maybe now who started here before. Kenyans asem could be amfanya asem sa. You get it?
Yeah. Interesting. I see. Now, our president is saying that there's going to be a better deal with the IMF. Let's listen to what he said. He said this when they were having their national elections, assuring Ghanaians of a better deal with the IMF. He's going to actually collaborate with the new elected executive of the MPP to bring a better deal on board. Let's listen to him.
For the welfare of ordinary people that will guide the party in the negotiations that we're about to have with the International Monetary Fund. Our responsibility is to confront the difficulties that are confronting our people and find an effective solution to it. And that's exactly what we are going to do. We came to office under an IMF program, a derailed IMF program, which we inherited from the Mahama administration. We worked hard to exit the country from the program, and we were in the process of building a strong economy until the events of COVID and its consequences. I want to assure you and assure the people of Ghana that we're going to negotiate a good deal with the IMF, a deal that would allow us to revive our economy and to continue the task of building an even stronger economy than we had before.
So I believe that you heard the president. He said that he's going to give us a better deal. He's looking forward to working with the new executive to give us a better deal with the IMF. What is your take on this? What do you think is the better deal that Ghana needs right now?
The better deal that Ghana needs right now.
And should we take his word for him?
So the better deal is a question. Should we take his words for it? It's also another question, right? The better deal we need is a deal that will boost our economy. If I say boost our economy, give us that credibility we need. Because currently our names are just not as it used to be even in the international market. Inflation is off the roof. All right. A young man out there will go to work for like 2 weeks, be able to gather 100 Ghana cedis. Otihona bibi epempem no ofechira hase ya obeba na sika nasa ohun ade kro de ye. These are all government policies because government is pulling money out of the system to service loans and the rest. That is the reason. And yet it's not any spiritual stuff. It's part of government policy. So the deal we want is the deal that will be able to build industries, boost businesses so that people can get jobs to do. That is the better deal we are looking for. We are not looking for any other thing.
Interesting.
That is the only deal we are looking for. The Ghanaian don't need much to be happy. I was telling you, the Ghanaian don't need much to be happy. A little bit of a better economy where he goes out, he can sell, he gets this, he gets that, he gets food to use. When you're banned, violence. The Ghanaian don't need that much. So the better deal we are looking for is to get our names back because currently it's not that nice. To have the fundamentals working, and then the promises they made.
Okay.
To be able to deliver a prosperous nation where young people growing up will have opportunity to explore, opportunity to build, and opportunity to develop so they can project what they have in them to the rest of the world.
So what do you think will be the impact on the Ghanaian youth going to IMF? So
IMF's impact, the positive is that we are likely to have our fundamentals restored.
Because it's currently weak, and the exchange rate is exposing us.
Everything else is exposing our fundamentals. Okay. It's not even just see, even when you take a car from Circle 2, it's exposing the fundamentals. Some of us, we do a lot of digital marketing and we deal with the dollars a lot. If you owe $200, if you owe Facebook $200, currently it's 1,600 Ghana cedis. You see those adverts you see on Facebook is sponsored. Click, learn more. As we do that a lot. If you owe $200, it's 1,600 Ghana cedis. So, as for the fundamentals, it has gone beyond exposing the nature of our economy, and it's gradually becoming a human condition. And the IMF, at the good side, if the proposals they will make, because they have a stake, they have a stake in giving you their credibility score, they have a stake to protect in giving you their money. So the proposals they will give you are proposals that would work. It will give you that outlook, and possibly, if you are disciplined enough, because something enters there. If you are disciplined with your fiscal policies and the rest very well, you'll be able to work things out. What will be most affected will be employment, mostly in the government sector. So, in the government sector, government employing a lot of people and the rest, that will be more affected. So, if you're a young person and you are looking forward to maybe the government adding you to each wage bill, there is the tendency that they will have to pause. So that also brings me to this. I think I was doing something else the day the announcement was made. And then a colleague called that, kindly check social. So I just went online. Then I realized that a lot of NDC party faithfuls were jubilating as if rapture has come and they have gone to heaven. And a lot of people have MPP Omonomaka. So I was like, okay, what is the jubilation about? Okay, all right. But then, if you are a newly trained teacher and they've not yet processed your salary, and you are jubilating, there is a very big problem with that kind of jubilation. Because there's a tendency that they will have to pause it. They will have to pause that processing. If you are a nurse, if you work within that space, and they have to go there and the negotiation goes down that line, that you can't add to your wage bill, your government wage bill, they have to pause all of that. And mostly it's given within a specific time period, so maybe 4 years. So even if the NPP goes off and your party comes, it still remains. Do you get it? So these are some of the impacts, and these are some of the things that we should all be looking up for, and we hope that we will be disciplined enough to live with it and emerge out of all the harsh conditions that will be proposed. If at the end of the day we can only achieve our goal for going there, and the goal will help boost the economy, position us at a time where people can actually exploit opportunity and grow, because that is the economy we are actually looking for.
Great. Should the finance minister resign?
Honorable Ken, as for this topic, I wish to avoid it, but let me still speak to it. You know, the president gave him a job.
Okay.
He is to take care of a very specific terrain.
Okay.
And I think that if you have a job and you are not doing it, or you are doing it and it's not working for a very long period like that, then you should do the honorable thing.
And what is the honorable thing?
The honorable thing is saying thank you for the opportunity. I would want to say that I did my best, and I want to give it, like, I want to resign, and someone else should come and take its place. Look.
By the way, he has this message for critics like you. He has a special message. Let's listen to the finance minister. To critics that he should resign.
Who say resign? Will you resign because of going to the IMF when you said you were not going to the IMF?
That's not a very good question. You know, it's almost like telling a father to resign from his children because he's changed his mind. You know, there are times that decisions have to be made for the survival of a country, and therefore, if circumstances such as COVID or Ukraine war occur, which are not typical, it does change the environment, and sensible people.
He said he's not resigning today, he's not resigning tomorrow.
Because
he resigning is like a farmer, blah blah blah,
okay,
leaving the children, blah blah blah.
Okay, so
or a father leaving the children.
So this is a situation where it's typical of our space. People don't usually resign.
Okay.
But in a time like this, you don't make certain utterances that present a different outlook, right? If we are talking about the economy, we are talking about people's lives, people's livelihoods, people's future and the rest. You can't do with ego.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do with making it look like everything is fine. People should not complain when it is not.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are asking you to resign because of your work output, and you come to say that we are asking you to resign because we are asking you to resign, and
He doesn't want us to be orphans.
First of all, the MPP have the men, or let me say the country, Ghana. You know, our problem is not the men. Our problem is discipline. To staying at the thing, doing what we have to do. That is our issue. It's not the men. We have the men. There are people who can really run this economy.
Mm.
Look, back then, during ex-President Kufuor's era, myself, I was surprised when Yaw Osafo have to be laid aside. But if you look at that time, the economy of Yaw Osafo compared to the economy of the current finance minister, and Yaw Osafo had to be given the to
sideline.
One would, I seriously don't understand as in why he's at post. At least there should be a reshuffle or something. The men are there, unless there is something else that the public don't have to know.
Interesting.
Because if we really have this nation at heart at this point, come on, if there are men to help, there has to be that kind of shake.
Interesting.
To put us in that kind of position. But as it looks, it doesn't look like we are changing the finance minister. It more appears that he is going to take us through to the end of the 4 years that we are looking at.
He's taking us to Canaan. Actually.
So the quote of Jeremiah chapter this and the scripture and stuff.
The parable of the 12 spies.
Even the devil sapped scripture for a purpose.
Interesting.
He went to Jesus and he quoted scripture. The devil. All right? So it's not the scriptures. It's just that it's not it's not the scriptures.
It's not the scriptures.
It's not.
I see.
So I don't know. I believe he knows what to do and he knows a lot. But at this point, a lot needs to change.
Okay.
And I pray and I wish that he actually would sit up, because it doesn't look like he will be sacked and it doesn't look like he will resign.
Interestingly. So we are wrapping up. Did you bring your Ghana card? I believe that when you were coming to the studios, you paid your transportation with your Ghana card. And why are you laughing? Now we are paying everything with Ghana card. Everything you see here, we bought them with our Ghana cards. Now Ghana is going cashless. We are using Ghana card for everything because one Ghana card is actually equivalent to 1,000 interchanges. And what do you say about that? Or you didn't bring your Ghana card?
Well, I have my Ghana card on my phone.
Okay. Hey, then how did you pay?
For a more funny outlook, I just showed it to the mate and then I got here.
You should. Oh, the mate is very understanding because they are looking for physical Ghana cards. Actually, they are looking for physical Ghana cards.
All right. So, on a more serious note, I believe there was a context to that discussion.
Are you sure that there was a context? Let's listen to what he was actually saying.
We inherited a problem of no unique national identification system. This had been with us since independence. We have implemented the national identification system of the Ghana card. And we have today 16 million Ghanaians with unique identities. And that is a major transformation. And maybe a lot of people sometimes don't even appreciate what the impact of the Ghana card is. But if you gave me 1,000 interchanges and a Ghana card, I'll choose the Ghana card because it has more impact. With the Ghana card, access to student loans today is without the need for a guarantor. you first needed a guarantor to give you a student loan. But with digitalization and the implementation of it, we now can access student loans without the need for a guarantee.
He made it clear that he's going to take 1 Ghana card over 1,000 interchanges. So I don't know why they were cutting source in the first place to build interchanges.
Just when he would. All right. So first off, looking at this very issue, I think he was invited to speak at a gathering, and that he had a topic to address, and then he addressed it, and it got to that point of, is it digitization or what they call it? And the vice president made that statement that he will pick Ghana card any day. Now, that is for superior argument. At a level of communication, looking at those who are listening to you, that will make sense. For those within the banking sector, that can make a lot of sense. Or the financial, that will make a lot of sense. Those within other areas that require a lot of data verification and the rest, that will make a lot of sense. What I have as an issue with that statement is that the vice president over the years have grown through time to understand that we carry news as it comes out. We will translate it, put it in Twi, put it in Ewe and Ga, and then send it out there. And for that matter, in a state where we find ourselves now, where people are looking for him, like, let me use literally, people are actually looking for him. People are asking, so where is Dr. Bawumia? Would he speak on the economy? And you come out and you make a statement that you pick Ghana card out of that. You know, it will be cut. The length of this entire message will not be shared. It is just that portion that people will pick. So for him, he needs to be a bit careful with his utterances going forward. More of, if you are at the back of the stage making a presentation, don't be carried away by the applause of the people. The statements you have to make have to run through your mind a lot. If not, you will make certain statements that will be taken out of context. Because to the people of Ashanti region, your stronghold or your base, etc., they have an issue with the government that developmental projects have been centered in Accra and other regions. So you don't make that statement. Because they are going to translate it and take it raw and go and preach it there. And it will sink. So you don't make that kind of statement. I don't know what the goal was, but I think it hasn't gone down well. And at this time of our lives, that message will not go down well with anybody.
Interestingly. What is your final word? What is your final word? We are almost done.
All right. So in the context of all of these discussions of IMF, Ghana, our economy, our nation, and the rest, the youth comes as the center stage of attention. First of all, MPP NDC are not opponents.
Okay.
The only constant between the two of them are the youth. At this point, they've managed to divide us within two parties. So even if a sensitive issue of national interest comes up and you want to address it, because we've been divided into two camps, if you raise it, this one will tag you, this one will tag you, your veteran is then it just ends without any meaningful output. So they are not enemies. We are the ones that need to have a common goal as people growing up. Look, the generation of Nkrumah knew what they were fighting for. So our generation today need what I call an ideological sounding board, right? The generation of Nkrumah knew what they were fighting for, and that was to get independence from the Brits, and they got it. Any means, they got it. A generation came who had the goal of democratizing our process. Even though our election processes and the rest are flawed, at least a jantor in Kranye, we are not fighting. So once again, the time has come for a generation to also determine what it is living for. Because if you meet a lot of young people and you ask them what this generation will be remembered for, it will be very difficult to point out to a thing as we sit here. That is our issue as a generation. We the youth. So if you hear statement, we the youth, that is our issue. We the youth. We lack a critical ideological sounding board that this is what we also want to achieve for Mother Ghana. So let me use your medium and this opportunity to make a proposal to everyone who is possibly watching today. What of we to have at the back of our minds to democratize further? All right. Secure our borders. Be able to develop a police unit that will protect our people. Develop a knowledge and a skill-based economy. Create wealth in the days of our lifetime and then distribute prosperity. And then stand on that output and then project it to the rest of the world as a black superpower that is capable and ready to play. But then, if this is our ideological sounding board, then this is all of what we will live for as a people between now to 30 years. Our national discourse will shift. Our commitments will shift. Our energies we will have a revived energy towards a goal. But you cannot get to this point if you don't understand power dynamics. Shortly, there are three groups of people in any nation. There are the masses. They don't have power. They are about 90%. All these, you have power, pick your voter card, go and you have power, demand that. It's like script. There's the second people, the influencers. They influence the masses. You are one. The media is very powerful to you and your people. CSOs, pastors, preachers, and the rest. All these people forms part of the influencers. And then, in the context of governance, we also have political party delegates, like those that went to vote for these people. They fall in between. The third part of the people have to do with the power brokers itself, those that actually own power. Now, I say that the masses don't have a choice, or they are not powerful, because if at the end of the day, MPP presents you with one person of equal nuisance value, NDC presents you with one person of equal nuisance, and you have to choose from these two people, then there's an issue. So, at the end of the day, you that have the influence will have to use your platforms to channel an agenda for a better place. And the youth should also understand that politics itself is not a bad thing. It's a way of life itself. It's just that a group of people within one of the structures of influence in a nation have been able to derive a career out of it, career politicians. They are related to governance. And for that matter, there are a way that the terrain plays. So getting in there is not that much of negative. So we should encourage people to get in there. Because the most powerful person, or where power lies, is the ability to have a stake in the two possible outcomes, such that we have good men, good youth within these parties that elect these flag bearers and the rest for the masses. So each other way it goes. If NDC presents as an option, we know that as for this option, he has the country, that ideological sounding board over there, he understands that this is what we are doing. If NPP also presents as, goes through the process and presents as one person, this person also understands this thing. So at the end of the day, whoever actually comes to government is a win for all of us. That should be the goal. So not necessarily about the colors. The colors is just for the surface. I hope you get that. So finally, I will encourage all young people, if you have the energy, the passion to help your people, you can do a lot of that within the politics of the day by being different. At the end of the day, closing, when we say NPP, you will surely be able to point one MP or two or three or four ministers and people that you think they are good. It's not everybody that is so corrupt. The NDC's camp also have people like that. So you that wants to help your people, you have to model those people. You can be like them. So we can actually effect a change. Thank you. I think.
Wow. Such a wonderful discussion. It's a pleasure having you here. Unfortunately, time is actually taking me as it's not on time bomb actually. But I don't want it to explode. So
all right.
we'll have to end here for today. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us today for this wonderful discussion. In fact, I didn't want the discussion to end because I told you people that he's a man of few words. You understand? So this show is proudly sponsored by Endpoint Homeopathy Clinic. If you're suffering from stroke, any chronic disease, infertility, diabetes, and any chronic disease at all, kindly contact Endpoint Homeopathy Clinic. You can call the doctor himself on 0244 867 068 0244 867 068. You can locate them at Accra, Spintex, Telma, Kumasi, Techiman, and Takrady. On to another episode of Broad Daylight. Kindly follow us on our social media handles. Facebook is CMJ TV, YouTube CMJ TV, Twitter at CMJ TV, and Instagram also on CMJ TV. Log on to our website at www.cmonline.com.gh, your authentic online news portal. CM Online Radio, your authentic online radio. You can find us on Zeno and Modern Ghana. On to another exciting episode of Broad Daylight with me, Priscilla Mo. I've been here with Mr. Edward Marfo of Youth Empowerment Consortium and Youth Model Parliament. I sign out for you. Peace, love, be a good person, stay out of trouble. Love you.